Hi!
Salut!
Hola!
Ciao, tutti!
Do you want to know more about transcultural encounters? Then you're in the right place.
La transculturalidad es un concepto, es una categoría que se usa para describir un proceso de encuentro entre dos culturas o entre más culturas.
That process occurs when two or more people, cultures, systems, universes meet and encounter.
Transculturality is an approach or perspective that compels us to see the entanglements of different practices.
It is an academic concept denoting the inevitable mixture, the inevitable relatedness of cultures.
La transculturalité est une théorie, une méthode, ainsi qu'une pratique.
C'est un réseau de liaison entre toutes les cultures. On n'a pas de culture individuelle, mais on a de culture qui se mélangent.
Transculturalità è un processo di formazione di una cultura nuova, una cultura altra. Si ha un incontro di due culture e si ha la creazione di una nuova cultura e i tratti delle due culture di partenza a volte sono impercettibili nella nuova cultura.
But in certain situations it assumes a particular significance, and these situations are colonialism, decolonization, migration, travel, and also conflicts, wars, genocide.
And the heuristics of transculturality starts from the assumption that we're talking about a related network, not about distinct entities.
No culture is self-contained. There are no contained cultures. All cultures are inherently connected to others, and the origins of cultures itself is rooted in other cultures.
Transculturality gives us a new perspective to look at cultures in a different way, so that we know cultures are not just separate from each other, but are constantly influencing each other. And I think that is something that is very important in this master's program.
It is one of the most special programs I've ever taught in my entire teaching career.
There is a very succinct theoretical framework around which the master program is built.
And you can learn so many things, not only on a professional level about theory, but also on personal level about how we are all connected and that we have so much more in common than things that set us apart.
What is special about the master program is that it covers so many languages. So we have French, Spanish, Italian from the Roman studies side, and English.
That in itself is not unique, but already pretty special. There are not too many such programs in Germany or even worldwide.
Es el contacto de las lenguas, que es un tema también, porque incluimos no solamente las bases filológicas, sino también incluimos las teorías de las humanidades en general, y eso abarca también la lingüística, que es algo especial.
Each student has the possibility to build her own research path. By attending different classes in English studies and Roman studies, students can be acquainted with different methodologies and with different theories and perspectives.
It combines literature, politics, and culture. It's an all-round program for you to enrich your knowledge.
We also cover literatures and the arts from very different regions, especially also from regions of the Global South.
You also get to know the expertise of professors in topics in Africa, in Latin America.
It is an interdisciplinary program.
So there are different scholars coming from different fields, such as literature, linguistics, sociology.
Politology, human geography, religious studies, even psychology.
And each scholar brings his or her own perspective, his or her own methodology. And I think that this interdisciplinarity is something unique in our master.
So the cultural competence that you get is not that of saying I'm an expert in this and that culture after my studies. Which is not to say that you can't specialize. And of course, people develop their special interests and find out a lot about certain cultural constellations. But the expertise that you can gather, I think, in studying moving cultures is an insight into cultural complexity, an insight into the way in which individuals and groups negotiate their understandings of culture.
Students develop over time their own research projects that then flow into their master thesis. So over the past years, I have supervised master theses about Indian partition, about Black Lives Matter, memory activism and monuments, migrant writing in Great Britain, about Boko Haram in Nigeria, about memory in Ethiopia. So you see that the field of the Anglophone is actually quite wide when you look at it through a transcultural lens.
So the idea is that actually students can build their own critical stance towards reality in some sense. So they can identify certain power dynamics and they can also in some sense question these dynamics. And what is most important is the fact that they could also change these dynamics when they go in the society in some sense.
Interesting classes I visited were called, for example, Who's Afraid of Identity Politics? Also Queer Modernism, which was a mixture between Spanish literature and Scandinavian literature. And also one which I really do like to remember is called Eating Cultures. And the most special thing about all these seminars is that we're looking at these topics through literature and media. It could be poetry, it could be novels, and it could be, as I said, movies and films.
There is a class that I did with Roland Spiller that was called Caribbean Africas. So that was about ideas, imaginations of Africa and the Caribbean, in the French-speaking and the English-speaking Caribbean. We also did a class on the crime novel in a comparative perspective, crime novel in Africa, crime novel in Latin America, so that was between English and Spanish.
I had the opportunity to take 2 lectures, one in geography and the other one in political science. The one in geography was Migration and the City, and we explore how migrants shape the city, not only culturally, but also aesthetically. On the other hand, the political science course, it was about migration, but also human rights, and we were tackling topics as refugees, asylum seekers, and the Convention of the United Nations.
The last class that I will be teaching next term, apart from the Moving Cultures introduction, of course, is called Trans-Indigenous Modernities. So it is the fact how indigenous cultural productions are very much part of a modern globalized world, and yet, of course, are carving out their very own special way of being and representing this modern globalized world, which makes them truly indigenous, right?
This master is also linked to applied activities in terms of internships, in terms of periods abroad. So there is a nice dynamics between a theoretical reflection on critical stances and a practical application of what we learned actually in the class.
I have seen during my experience a lot of students who have really benefited from applying their transcultural perspective in their professional life during the internship.
I am currently working at an international cooperation company. After my internship, I started to work there as an acquisition manager. So I am looking for projects around the world, Africa, MENA region, South America. And we are trying to implement these projects to improve people's lives.
I'm doing bilingualism research and I'm particularly interested in understanding how bilingual children use different languages at home and at school.
I am writing a book about the Odyssey. I think that the Odyssey is basically the best case for an understanding of the transcultural process. because it has been a transcultural narrative ever since its inception. And for almost 3,000 years, it has traveled across the globe, across time, and across all conceivable media.
I am doing the project model, just taking a deeper look at how people and collectives actually try to build up solidarity and fight against discriminatory practices, but in the end up actually producing and reproducing certain narratives that, for example, take these people's agency.
I just finished my second book on insurgent cultures, titled Insurgent Cultures. My upcoming project would be on public life in Anglophone literatures and cultures. I'm interested in how ideas of democracy and political life are cultivated in public spaces as opposed to private sphere.
I have just finished my second book, which is a project on the world arts of surrealism. So I approached surrealisms from Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean through a transcultural and transversal perspective.
At the moment, I'm doing an internship at the cultural department of the city in Frankfurt. And while I'm also working at the Instituto Cervantes, so I feel like this master program gives me a lot of variety in choosing what I want to do with my future and where to engage.
Seems interesting, right? You can find all the information you need to enroll on our website, and we are looking forward to see you.